Hi everyone. Oh, hello,
Hello.
hello, hello. Um, so I was away, and Susanna was reminding me that if she was away this close to the show, I would be very upset with her, and then I was doing the same thing. So sorry. Also, Susanna is more aware about Iran stuff than me because some of the questions today are about Iran, and apparently I had no idea what music guy is asking about, and Susanna did. So there
Do you
you
want to
go.
know why?
Why?
Because I'm friends with Music Guy on Facebook.
Oh, there you
So
go.
I saw
Okay.
what he was posting about. Turns out that he knows
Um,
more about, he's more up to date on Iran than both of us.
yeah. Yeah. One of the questions. Well, okay. Hey, now let's not go overboard. Okay, in this specific issue. Okay, like let's not do it. Anyway, so we're gonna be answering questions. Um, and first we're gonna go through the Patreon questions. Then we're gonna go through the live chat questions. I see Rudresh already has a lot of live chat questions that we have started, so we will get to them right after we go through the Patreon questions. If you're not a patron and you want to make sure that your questions do get answered, consider becoming a patron. Link in the description. That way, your questions get priority. Your questions will get answered, unless they're not questions or just statements. Um, and also that way, even if you're not here live with us, you could pre-send your questions to us as a patron, and we will answer them. Right. So we have all the patron questions here. Start in our live chat, and we could go through them one by one,
Before we
and
get
then.
started, I wanted to
Hmm?
give a thank you to
Oh
Music
yeah.
Guy. He sent us this mug.
Uh.
um, Apparently this mug is supposed to be for Armin. I'm supposed to send
Mm,
this to Armin, but I think I'm
I love
gonna
it.
hold on to it for a little while. Um,
Okay.
Music Guy was kind enough to send this to our PO box. So if
Mm.
people want to send us stuff, the address for our PO box is in the description. Um, yeah.
All right. So I love it, but just to be clear, I do hate communism. I don't hate communists. This is just like a
Yes.
joke, right? Like, I'm friends with a lot of communists. I just,
Same.
but yes, but even though I'm very much against communism, right? So, but yeah, but it's just a funny joke. Like, I would find it humorous if somebody had, like, I don't know, capitalist tears or whatever in their mug. I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
it. Like, I would just, but yes, I love it. It's fun. It's funny. like I was like, oh, where's your ad? Oh, Dolly is here. Hi, Dolly. British likes the mug. Okay. Oh, look. Susanna, please go from Shia to Hindu to both love Imam Hussein. I didn't know that. That's it. All right. Okay, okay. We should get to um we should get we should get to patron questions. Okay, okay. I'm gonna ignore that. All
Yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah.
all right.
Okay.
Patron questions. First patron questions by D.
First patron question from D. D is asking, according to the Associated Press, a police spokeswoman in Kazakhstan spoke of quote unquote liquidating protesters. YouTube, that is a quote. That is not us. Um, Russia just announced it will send in peacekeepers. Can you tell us about the discontent? What can you tell us about the discontent in the country? Um, I think Russia actually did. So I saw a headline that Russia has sent in some paratroopers already.
Okay, so anything we say about, like, this video is gonna get cut later and it's gonna come out later, and this just started. Like, this just started. So by the time this part gets cut out, and like, this is like a fast changing thing, like, that is happening, like, and by the time this part gets cut out, a lot of things probably have changed by that time, right? But what is so I haven't we obviously we don't know much about Kazakhstan other than the recent news, right? But based on what I've seen, it's just such a deja vu, right? Like, it's just over and over again. You see, like, protests start with, like, so for example, this one is supposed to be about gas prices, right? They increase the gas prices and people are in the street, okay? But it's never about what it gas prices, right? It's never about, like, you see other places, like it was about taxes on WhatsApp, right? Or in Iran, increase in increasing gas prices there as well, or water shortages. And now in Kazakhstan, you see like gas prices, but it's never just about that. Like if you read the news, you feel like the protests are about gas prices, but that was the spark. There was like a whole, there was like a, a lot of, you know misery and complaints that never, like it was a
This
built
has
up
been brewing for decades.
frustration. Yeah, it was a built up frustration, and it's also because like you see this happening in places where dissent is not tolerated. Like Kazakhstan seems to be extremely anti dissent. Like you don't get to protest, you don't get to, like, you have to go through loops to be able to even get your voice heard. And now they cut the internet. It's so similar. It's so deja vu to Iran's, like Iran protests, the ones before the ones on the water shortage, the ones that happened in Aban like 2 years ago. Um,
That's
that that was
2019 for those who don't know.
29. Yeah, that started over gas prices, and then people came out. And once you create like enough um, a momentum of people that are coming out and complaining about something, and you provide some level of security through numbers by spreading the risk, then it becomes all the other complaints that people have that was never being heard. Now this provides a cover for them to join the protest, and it's just like a snowball, and it just takes over everything. And even if you reduce the gas prices, you're not going to stop the protest, because that's not what people are out anymore about. They're just against you. They could never tell you their frustrations, and now it's just like open, and the floodgates have been open, and now they're like, this is why stifling dissent always backfires, because all you're doing is just like creating a bubble, and it's just like, if people get to complain, it's just like this, these bubbles keep bursting smaller, and like if their voices are actually heard, not just complain but actually heard and taken seriously, these bubbles just go under poop. But then once you like stifle it so brutally, you are not going to be able to maintain that forever. It's just going to be a big bang at some point. Yeah, go on, you want to say something?
Well, a couple of things. So based on some coverage I've seen of the protests, a lot of it was directed towards frustration over how much control the former autocrat's family has over everything in Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
And so there's some things that the current leader who came in a few years ago, like some resignations that he forced through to try to kind of like make a concession. But in terms of the Russia situation, Russia cannot tolerate instability in Kazakhstan. Period. They cannot tolerate instability there, particularly considering that they share a very large border with Kazakhstan and there's almost no border security. A lot of that is not like a physical hard border. So that's going to be a huge problem for Russia. And also, they just cannot have instability in Central Asia, period. And partially it has to do with the literal physical geography of the area. And this is partially why Russia is always trying to expand west, but that's like bigger than this discussion. Another aspect of this is that they are calling all of these people who are out in the streets protesting basically either foreign agitators, foreign
Of course.
plants, or actually calling them terrorists. For those who do not know, we say terrorists, I mean radical, extremist, violent people, okay? Because YouTube is very sensitive. So, so they're just trying to paint all these people as terrorists, even though this is happening in cities across the country. And it's spread, what commentators are saying, they were shocked at how quickly it has spread to like every public square in front of administrative buildings, like across the country. And any attempt to just paint this as outside interference, like they're trying to say this is like a US plant or something, is a complete distraction. We have no evidence to support this. And also, shoot, what was I going to say? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just trying to delegitimize everything, and also the U.S. would not really have an interest, I don't think, in doing something like that.
no, Susanna, you're wrong. Everything is US's fault. Everything is US's fault.
Like
Okay,
Kazakhstan is a horrible
all right. Wait.
dictatorship, and the U.S. is not interested in any instability there. Hasn't been for
Yeah.
decades.
Okay, but here's an interesting thing. I'm just gonna add really quickly. Do you know who else is interested in this whole situation in Kazakhstan?
Putin.
No, the crypto community, because the miners because ever since I think I'm correct about this. China, wait, so when China banned crypto mining, people moved to Kazakhstan for mining, and I think
Um,
Kazakhstan is after second place in the world. I think I'm not sure about this. Let me see. I think it's second place after the United States in mining crypto. So now they cut down the internet for the protest, so that so they can't mine anymore. Oh yeah, crypto miners in Kazakhstan face yeah.
oh my
So like
god.
this is having a major impact in the crypto world.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that was a crossover I wasn't
Kazakh-
expecting.
Kazakhstan's Bitcoin mining industry is upended by unrest. Bitcoin network power slumps as Kazakhstan crackdown is because after this is Kazakhstan was one of the main countries where miners migrated to out of China for mining crypto, and now the internet is being shut there, so people can't mine. So
Hmm.
that's the thing. All right.
Yeah, and we have right
Um,
now. I mean, just to put a lid on it, or to put a bow on it. I mean, um, we don't know how many civilians have been killed, but between police and civilians, we know dozens of people have been killed thus far. And the latest report was that 18 police
oh
have been
wow.
killed.
Okay.
So who knows in terms of civilians?
This could by the time this part of this video comes out, this might have become it's either dead or escalated or I don't know. We'll see. Okay.
Well, especially Russia
Hi.
getting involved is whew, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. All
Um,
right. Let's go to this one. Oh,
Next
this
Patreon
was
question is from
yeah.
Music
Read it.
Guy. Armin,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on Ibrahim Raisi's Christmas Eve publicity stunt?
Yeah, this is the question that apparently Susanna knows more about because I was reading this question. I was like, "What is Music Guy talking about?" And Susanna was like, "Oh, you haven't heard? Well, let me tell you." I'm like, "Okay, tell me, Susanna. Tell me what you know about Iran that I don't know." So the question is wrong. Apparently, the question should have been Armin thoughts on Ibrahim Raisi's Christmas Eve public publicity stunt. It should be Susanna because you seem to be more. Well, go ahead, Susanna. Tell us.
Well, basically on Christmas Eve, Ibrahim Raisi had a quote unquote unplanned meeting with a family who was left behind. They're a Christian family of a man who was killed in the Iran-Iraq War, and it is a spontaneous meeting where the leader of the country goes to see this random family, and just state reporters happen to be there.
Leader of the country is kind of rich talking
Oh,
about the president,
yeah, exactly.
the leader of the country.
Yeah.
Khamenei is the leader of the country. Yeah, okay.
So during this meeting with this Christian family of this, killed veteran or martyr, he was talking about how it doesn't matter if you're Muslim or Christian or Zoroastrian,
Hmm.
we are all martyrs for Iran, and real Iranians will do everything for the Iranian nation, and trying to honor this Christian man as a martyr, and come together as it was a very nationalist message.
All right, so we have to actually tell people who's who. Okay, so basically, Ibrahim Raisi is the president in Iran because a lot of people might not know. And on Christmas they met a Christian family, but this is a Christian family with a martyr in during the Iran-Iraq war. They have because they're using Christmas as an opportunity to show, because there's two different narratives in Iran. Is Iran for Muslims, or is Iran united over more patriot. Like there are two different narratives where they're trying to get people to be loyal to the government. Some are Islamic, some are nationalists, right? So depending on their mood and depending on the need, they'd use the different narratives, right? So when they want to use nationalist narratives, they're like, oh, we're all the same, and as long as you die for the country, apparently, we don't care that you're a Christian, because they're going to a family of a murderer that died in the Iran-Iraq war. So I don't know if the messaging is going to be received like the way they think, because they're like, we're willing to look past the fact that you're Christian, as long as you just die for us. I think that's what I'm getting. But like what Susanna mentioned, you mentioned like it's funny because when they are mentioning the people who died for Iran in the war, one of the main groups that again, this is something I'm learning from Susanna, is the Baha'is. And Raisi doesn't mention the Baha'is because Baha'is be damned. Like in Iran, Baha'is seem to like, this is a suggestion. I don't know whether that was intentional or he was just giving a list and it didn't cross
Well,
his mind.
apparently it's a state policy that Baha'is are not given the title of martyrs for dying in the Iran-Iraq war, versus Muslims, Christians, and Zoroastrians get the title of martyr.
Wow. So if you have died in a war for Iran, regardless of your religion, you all get a title of martyr. But if you're a Baha'i, even though you bled for the country, you gave your life for the country, they won't call you a martyr because you're a Baha'i. Unbelievable.
According to the source I was reading.
What? That's okay. According to, okay, so if that is true, that is insane. That's like so amazing that they are like, you're like, for them, like, you're lower. I mean, even Zoroastrians, right? So even people that are not Ahlul Kitab or people of the book, technically, I mean, you could argue, it depends on who you ask. Like they're like, everybody, you get to be a martyr, you get to be a martyr, everybody gets to be a martyr except Baha'is, because they are, wow, the level of discrimination. We don't even recognize you, as we don't even celebrate you even after you die for your country. Amazing. One thing I want to say about Ibrahim Raisi, I didn't know about this PR stunt that he did. However, his presidency has been 99% PR stunts, 1% doing things. Like apparently that's how he leads. Like this is all he does. Like he just goes around, like he doesn't know how anything works. He makes
he can barely read. Are we surprised?
Yeah, no, it's so bad. He's so bad. Like his promises are like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna order for the inflation to stop. And they're like, how? Like, I'm just gonna.
Are you serious?
Yeah, like he's just gonna like, yeah, I'm just gonna make it stop. I'm just gonna cut it out and just stop it. Just cut it out. He just thinks like he could just, like, why did the last president just stop the inflation? I'm just gonna stop the inflation. Like, okay. Okay. I guess
my mind just broke. Are you serious?
No.
Like I had to do a reboot mentally.
He no, like well, I mean, he just has one of those mentalities of the people that you could just command things, right? You could give people money, and it's like this top-down approach on they have very limited understanding of how anything works, and they now they're in charge. I mean, he has barely like elementary school education, and now he's like the president of the country. So it's unbelievable. Anyways,
I don't know why Khamenei thought it was a good idea to give the presidency to a guy who can't read. Like, guys, he literally like can't read.
I mean, it makes sense for the office of the supreme leadership to have somebody that, because that is not as in control as Khamenei, because they are thinking like the behind the scene. I think like if they are preparing Raisi to be the next supreme leader, the people in charge of that transition would rather be for that to be somebody, I'm guessing here, okay, that they can control rather than them being controlled by him, right? If Mujtaba Khamenei, which is Khamenei's son, becomes his next supreme leader, he will be having a much more hands-on approach. But like the people who are pulling the lever behind the scene, they probably want the office of the supreme leader to be powerful without the supreme leader himself to be powerful. I'm this is just guesswork. I have no idea, but if I'm just guessing, that's what I would say.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Well, especially considering that Moshtaba doesn't actually have the religious credentials to be a
yeah,
qualified Ayatollah, much like his father. You
and he
need
has
someone
never
who's
as
incompetent to
and he's
easily control, so you
invisible,
can't be
and
threatened.
nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also nobody have seen him. Like you mean they have seen him, but he's not like in the public eye, right? But he is very aggressive decision making. He's kind of like a Mohammed bin Salman kind of person. Like if he is in
Mm,
charge, he would be like very, very hawkish. That's what he is. Okay. So,
mm.
anyways, we have to move to the next question.
Next
Oh,
question is from Music Eye saying thoughts on Macron's EU presidency and the EU's push for strategic autonomy. Um, I don't have much to say about this.
I have a
Maybe a
lot to say.
little bit about the strategic autonomy, but you go for it.
All right. So, first of all, this is whatever we say is going to depend on whether or not Macron is going to win in the election, in the upcoming election. It's going to happen soon, I think in a few months. Um, but the powers that be are shifting. So in the European Union, the main it's always been the main two powers were Germany and France, with Germany having a little bit of a lead, right? And now the power is shifting a little bit from Germany to France, right? And France is like becoming more of a leadership position if Macron manages to win the elections, right? Um, and it's very interesting because Macron always had this push for basically, we need to be more independent from United States and NATO. We need to have a purely European. We need to be a purely European united force because we can't rely on these goddamn Americans, right? Because the Americans have different agendas. Like it made like historically, ever since World War II, this this like marriage between Western Europe and United States and Canada made a lot of sense, right? They're culturally aligned, ideologically aligned, globally they were anti the same things and pushing for the same things, pushing for the same world order against communism. Oh, so it was just perfect, right? They were like, but now as things are keep like moving forward, the agendas are different, right? The United States has this very like China focus, which might not be in line with exactly what Europe is best for Europe. Um, both the policies on Russia and China, which is the main two things that United States is now occupied with, that might not align exactly with the rest of the European Union, right? Um, However, this push for the problem with the EU is like the EU is supposed to be like an economic, you know, group, like they're united over economy. It was never supposed to be a military union. It was supposed to be an economic union. The military union was like NATO, and for NATO we had like, but the thing is that NATO's agenda and the Europe is not going to be that in line because of how much United States is involved in NATO, right? And now Macron's philosophy is that we need a union like that, also military wise, not just economic wise, given the different agendas that we have. The problem is, well, even within the European Union, the foreign policies is like they're not united, like they don't have the same views as well, right? So you're like, oh, Macron is like, oh, we're so different from the United States, and that's why we need to not rely on them and have our own force, right? But like, well, you're not like each other either. Like there's a lot of countries in the EU that have different views on relationships with China and Russia. Like there are disagreements within the European Union as well, right? So that made Macron's push for this autonomy very difficult until what happened? Anybody in the live chat? Anybody in the
Um,
live chat?
Belarus?
No. I mean, Belarus could help as well, I guess. But AUKUS.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, AUKUS happens, right? And Macron is like, because when AUKUS happened was the deal between Australia, United States, and Great Britain, and it wasn't like a lot of people like that was such an fu to France, right? Because France was sidelined, but it wasn't just France that was sidelined; it was the entire European Union that was sidelined, right? There was no talk with the European Union, no information, no sharing, like nothing, like as if the European Union is not even part of any equation, right? So France is like, look, these people are not taking us even serious. Like they're like we're a joke to them. Like we need to be a force together because we're being sidelined by the like they're creating these Commonwealth like countries are just going about and just doing things together,
Mm-hmm.
and building all these alliances and forces, and they're not even taking the EU seriously. That's why we need a powerful force together. So AUKUS was a major good like so so all major good PR push for Macron to suggest that okay, like European Union needs to be united, like um, become autonomous, independent from United States. Another thing is that there's a lot of issues around the borders of EU that requires the European Union to manage its borders without as a whole rather than each country doing it a thing managing it by itself. And if you keep increasing the task force that is responsible for guarding the EU's border, because that's already it's going to be a semi-military force, that could also set precedents for like, well, we have that could be built used as a framework for eventually building more military units that is for the EU as a whole. Honestly, I hope that becomes successful. I don't know if it will, because I do think like right now is like the most powerful military forces are what? United States and China, right? So I do wish that we had. It's not gonna get there, but I do
And
wish
guess
that
who's
we
in
had.
between?
What? Oh,
Geographically, who's in between the two?
oh yeah, yeah. You're right. Yeah, yeah. No, but I do wish that there was like a more human rights focused, powerful military force on the planet as a way to compete with, like, so that these whole human rights narratives becomes there was a competition that made them more real. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just like talk. I mean, it is more than just talk sometimes and sometimes not. But if it wasn't just like a competition between China and United States and we had like a third powerful military, I mean, it's not going to get there. European Union can't even get like enough money together to I mean, they're so behind. But if they are successful, it would be a welcome, you know, balancing. It will balance everything out to some extent. It will push
Yeah, I agree.
move things in a move the forces, military forces, in a direction that has relatively. Don't tell me like, whoa, but they did this and that. Okay, relatively better standards. By the way, like another thing that shows how the different motivations of European Union countries are when it comes to military action is so different, and that's what makes uniting them over military so difficult. Is that France is so involved in Africa, right? Which other European country is so disinvolved in Africa, right? So what are you gonna do? Like you gonna like with that agenda, you're gonna it's hard like like, oh, we're so different from United States, that's why we need our own military. Well, France, you're also very different from every single other European country when it comes to military presence, right? So again, we'll see what happens. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. Next patron question is from D. D is asking, in the United States, Homer Plessy was recently pardoned 130 years after the case he brought to the Supreme Court, which ushered in the separate but equal era of Jim Crow. Is it ever too late to right a wrong? And what would you say to those who doubt the sincerity?
Do you want to actually tell people who this person is?
So,
Yeah.
in Homer Plessy was a black man who refused to leave like a whites only train of a car on a train section on a train, and he was part of his civil disobedience. And then it's been like a long time since I took American history, but basically that was fought all the way up to the Supreme Court, and that became the standard in which they said, okay, like it legalized segregation. That was my understanding. And so does that explain things well enough?
Basically, like Rosa Park, but instead of a bus, you have a train.
Yeah, it was several years, like decades before then, too.
Decades before that, right? So he was doing it so much earlier. That's like really brave, because as brave as Rosa Parks was, this person was doing it at the time that it was like even less acceptable for black people to be in white
Yeah, no,
areas.
like let's talk about how much earlier. 1892.
Wow,
1892.
this man
Plessy, who
had
was mixed
balls.
race, was recruited by a local civil rights organization to deliberately break Louisiana's Separate Car Act, which segregated train passengers. He purchased a first class train ticket, sat in the whites only car bound for the city of Covington, told the conductor he was colored, and then refused to move. After Plessy, a shoemaker and activist, was apprehended, his attorney challenged the state's racist law on the grounds that it violated the 14th Amendment, which guaranteed citizens equal protection under the law.
This man
And
had
it
balls, and
it it went
yeah.
up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled against him.
Yeah, okay, so that's the thing. The Supreme Court was like, so he's like, this is unconstitutional for me to be separated. Like I get to be able to be in the white area or whatever they called it, and so it went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court like, no, this is not unconstitutional. It is acceptable, and then it made it law because the Supreme Court like made that decision that made segregation officially, you know, the law of the land, right? Like, it was recognized by the Supreme Court as something legitimate
Yeah,
until much much later.
because they're saying, well, the 14th Amendment guarantees like equal representation and treatment under the law, right?
Hmm.
So they're saying, oh, okay, well, as long as the accommodations you receive are equal, then the separation of who's receiving those services or accommodations shouldn't be seen as unconstitutional, which
R-
in practice,
hmm.
that was never the case. The services,
Mhm.
the accommodations were never equal, even though they were separate, and it tried to be
But
justified this
yeah,
way.
but now it's even if it's equal, now it's unconstitutional to make it separate, even if it's equal. So
Oh yeah.
yeah. Okay, so now they pardoned him 130 years later. He died knowing that his activism, I mean, didn't, like, it's so sad that he didn't see the result of, like, he I don't know if he died thinking that this will always be the same like
He
this,
died
or
in
will.
1925 before he could see the separate but unequal doctrine
Oh,
overturned in Brown versus Board of Education in 1954.
so he never knew. He died not ever knowing if this is ever going to be fixed. No. So okay, well, we actually have to address the question. Um, is it
Now
ever
that
too late
everyone
to
has the
write?
background.
Yeah. Is it ever too late to right or wrong? No, obviously not. It's never too early. Actually, it should be the other way around. It's never too early to right or wrong, right? Wait, no, it's never too late. No, it's always too early. Never mind.
What are you
It's
saying?
never. Yeah, okay, never mind. No, it's never too late to right or wrong. Wait, I mean, as always, don't they say it's better late than never? Like, yeah, better late than never.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. Sorry, I confused myself. What would you say to those who doubt the sincerity? What do you mean? Like, I mean, why would they not be sincere? I mean, do you
Because they
think the
would just
people
say,
who
oh,
are,
it's political pandering now. You just want to make it seem like you're a champion for minority groups now, so people are more inclined, like that kind of thing.
I mean, so we can't, with that kind of thinking, we can't celebrate anything. Do you know what I mean? We can't like any form of celebrating progress, then would be useless. Like, we want to, I mean, yes, this is symbolic, but we do need symbolism, right? We do need to make it, send sometimes you do things to send a message, to mark how much things have changed. I mean, imagine if you didn't. Imagine if you had the opportunity to pardon this man and didn't. That would also send a message. Like, wow, this guy just, like, we don't, like, he did something, and now, even after 130 years, after making this much progress, we're not even recognizing his activism. Like, bringing out people's memories and the activism that they did. These are really good ways of trying to cherish good people, and people who try to face, you know against face evil against all odds of success. You know what I mean? That's how you recognizing that and reminding people about that, and using symbolism, things that are, it might be a PR stunt, but it's a good PR stunt, right? Because you want people to remember where we were, how we got here, and also encourage people to keep fighting evil against all odds, like, a lot of people who didn't. Oh, here's another thing. How many people know Homer Plessy? I didn't know him. I had to look this up, right? Now I know.
You study it
So
in American history if you take it in high school
I know,
here in
but, like,
America.
okay, but, like, non-Americans don't know. Now it's on
Okay.
the news, all right? And now people are like, oh, this was nice. More people know about him, right? Also, I don't know. I think, like, celebrating people who did this, it's encourages people that maybe, you know what? Maybe if you're doing activism, here's what it will take for this. Okay, Homer Plessy died not seeing the fruits of his activism. Right? He didn't see the results. Okay, but after he died, things moved forward in a better direction. Okay, so if you are an activist and you think like you're just shouting into the void and nothing is changing, you might be wrong. The results, the accumulated benefits from results of all the activism that you're doing and everybody else is doing, might this society might see the benefits from that years after you're dead. Okay, so maybe, like, this is a good reminder of that. So I don't see it as useless. I think this is very good. I think it should be. We do need to use these moments to reflect sometimes.
It
What do you think?
certainly meant a lot to his descendants. Like there were descendants at the pardoning ceremony, and they were
There
like
you go.
basically in tears because it was like um, so significant for them for that to be acknowledged, and it felt like a turning. It spoke to them so deeply about where we are as a nation. We
Yeah.
have a lot that we can improve on, but moments
Yes.
like this recognize how far we've come.
Yes. Exactly. Good. That's a better way to describe what's happening than what I said. So that's good. All right. Let's move.
um. Oh boy. Did we want to go through all
Uh,
these other ones?
Okay. Yes. Let me just address them because they are okay. So, well, let me unstart the ones that we already
Like the
said.
first one I can get into.
Like, yeah. Okay. So Hindutva infiltration. So for people who don't know, Hindutva infiltration is a Hindutva supporter who's upset about a lot of our coverage, and we have like a whole bunch of. I don't. These are they seem to be questions, but they're not really questions. They just like a whole bunch of like complaints. But this is
Vague
supposed to be,
accusations?
yeah, vague accusations and complaints that you know that are being used. So he's a patron. So he wants to he we're supposed to answer patron questions. So, but these are not really questions. He's there to like just tells us complains about some of our coverage. Um, but sometimes he even like doesn't even ask a question. He just puts like he tries to put his accusation and puts a question mark at the end. But it's mostly just because so that we read it during the Q&A. But it's mostly just like him being upset with what we have done, right? So I don't know what this one is about. Like, can you? Okay,
Okay, so I actually do
let's
know what
go.
this
Let's
one's
go through
about.
them really quickly and just be like, But
Okay.
explain it to people who don't know what we're talking about. Yeah.
So I'm going to read it first and then I will explain. Okay. Why does Atheist Republic label Dharma Sansad as mask-off Yahtzees? We say Yahtzees instead of the N-word that you see right here because YouTube is sensitive, as mask-off Yahtzees for violent calls, but Periyar a rationalist, meaning we call Periyar a rationalist. Despite the fact that this dimwit simpleton spitted far bitter venom, he compared Brahmins to evil German Jews and called for a Brahmin
Don't
big
say
H.
that. Don't say the evil thing. Yeah. Okay, guys. YouTube, we're not saying this. Somebody is making some vile, like. Okay, this is not
So
our
no,
views.
let me explain what this means. So this person is complaining about our coverage of in two cities in India recently, in Delhi and Hardwar. There were these speeches that were given that openly called for genocide against Muslims. Again, YouTube, we are not saying this. We are talking about other people doing this. And so he is complaining that we would talk about the violence and compare them to Yahtzees, but then I believe I have previously called Periyar, who was a South Indian atheist, iconoclast, social activist, a rationalist, and then talked about what he said that was objectionable, right? Okay, so for the record, why would we call Dharma Sansad mask off Yahtzees for what they said? Because it was violent and it's wrong and it doesn't cite violence, and many people at those events are being prosecuted for doing so. Okay. Yeah. Second of all, in terms of Periyar, I've never said that I fully support everything that he said. Okay. I do actually think that he was anti-Brahmin, not Brahmanism, anti-Brahmin. He did call explicitly for violence against Brahmins. Okay. And I object to that. I don't support that. I think it's reprehensible.
Okay. Yeah, I think I addressed it very well because okay, let's move on to the next one. I'll start this one. This one really quickly.
How come West Bengal post-poll violence news didn't hate your platform last year, despite it being most gut-wrenching guardian of Indian democracy last year? We can't talk about everything.
Yeah, we have like 10 news a week. Like, I don't understand. Like, what you know what? Maybe increase your patronage so that we could do more coverage. How about that? Like, we could hire a news team. How about that? Like, your expectations of us is ridiculous. All right. I don't know why it keeps addressing you instead of.
Well, we're very familiar with how Hindutva people treat women. So, and I'm not trying to say that as like, oh, I'm a woman, woe is me.
No, we have seen it. Though.
Objectively, the treatment I get is quite different from how Armin's treated. Saying, Susanna, what makes Jews, Christians of Russia, non-Muslims of Iran special for U.S. and not Yazidis, Rohingyas, Ahmadis? Doesn't this exemplify your deep-rooted Judeo-Christian tendencies, even as Abrahamic atheists? Okay,
Abrahamic mindset.
This person is referring to a previous question and conversation we had about the Citizen Amendments Act in India, which is an act that gives special refugee status to people from specific surrounding countries except Muslims, basically. And in combination with the National Citizen Registry, it causes all these issues and it's very discriminatory against Muslims specifically. Okay, so the way that Hindutva people try to defend against this thing is they talk about this thing in America called the Lautenberg Act, which does give special preferences to Christian and evangelical Christians and Russian Jews. And then there was an update in the early 2000s for religious minorities in Iran. And then basically, so he's saying, oh, well, what makes these people special, but not the Yazidis, Rohingyas, and Ahmadis? Dude, those things were put in place earlier. They weren't, these groups weren't being persecuted, well, except for the Ahmadis. These groups weren't being persecuted the same way they are now in the mid 90s and early 2000s. So I don't
it's so amazing.
This has nothing to do with my tendencies. Like the contemporary conditions at the time were different.
right.
Also,
And he's
I'm not
also
implementing these. I'm not implementing these. I'm not creating these laws.
yeah. So and also it's like United States is not trying to demographically engineer the United States and make it more, the government, like we know that the Indian government is using these laws to demographically engineer India and make it less Muslim. Okay, we know that, right? We know that United States is not doing that, using these laws like as a way to demographically engineer United States. So it's not even comparable. It's like completely different thing, and it's ridiculous to even compare them with each other, right?
Well, in anyways, you think it's ridiculous to give priority to people on the basis of persecuted religious identity. Anyways, you think it's a violation of secularism, where I'm, under certain
And
circumstances,
no,
could be more sympathetic to it.
no. If no. If a group is being targeted because of their identity, it makes sense for you to protect them because of their identity. Okay, but India is not doing that. India is, trying to protect people and not protect certain people because of demographic engineering. That's why they completely ignore. That's why they're like, oh, if you're a Hindu, you could get your citizenship, but not if you're a Muslim. Like if you're a Hindu or like Buddhist or Jain or whatever, right? Like we know what that's a goal. Like it's pretty like if you deny that, you're looking directly into the sun and claiming that it's nighttime, right? That's what you're doing. It's
No, when
insane
when we
to.
originally talked about the Lautenberg Act, that did give these fast-tracked priority to these groups, you opposed that originally when we talked about that. You said that it was a violation of secularism.
Yeah, but like if yeah, I might be wrong about that. I have to look into those in detail. Like if it is specifically because they're being targeted. Like I have like the example I use is that, if you're in a helicopter and a Yazidi woman, like in a ISIS territory, and a Yazidi woman comes to your helicopter, and a Sunni man comes to your helicopter, and you only have one more space. Okay, you're gonna pick the Yazidi woman, not because you think Yazidi women deserve like you're playing identity politics, and we think like Yazidi women are worth more than Sunni men. You just know that somebody
Probability.
else. Yeah, probability. You're using the fact that this woman is probably a bigger target than the Sunni man, and you only have one more space. You're going to go with the Yazidi woman. You're not playing identity politics. Other people are using someone's identity as a way to target them, and you have to protect them because of that identity becoming a target, right? So if that's how it's working, then it might make sense. Okay, maybe, I don't know exactly how the laws were made, but if that is how it was, you have to go into a lot more detail to figure that out. But what I do know, even if it was flawed, even if it was a better way to do that, even though, okay, so if you have the capacity to go case by case and look at everyone's, like if you have enough resources to be more individualistic in the way you do the process, then doesn't make sense to like, oh, we're going to protect like these group of people. We're going to, but sometimes the government, so the reason why I was wrong is because sometimes the government doesn't have the resources to go one by one, and they have to make blanket statement rules for the sake of efficiency. Like, you guys are more likely to be oppressed, so we're just going to like go for you first, right? Protect you first. It makes sense, right? But this is not, again, even if that is correct, if we could do it individually, if we did have the resources, that would be superior if we could go one by one and just see who's being attacked and who's not. But that's what I was not taking into account, the limited resources. I wasn't taking that into account. But again, that is not comparable to what India is doing. Like, it's so obvious, like, because even if you go blanket group by group, when the law was put into place, you do know you have Rohingya Muslims, right? Like, it wasn't like that's something that came after. Like, like you have, it's so obviously designed for a different purpose beyond helping people. Like, it's not, that is like a lot of people who defend Hindutva and the BJP, they're like, oh, we're just being nice. What's wrong with being nice? That's not the goal of these laws. Don't you you're an idiot if you believe that. Okay. Anyways, let's move on to this one.
Yeah. So, and then this builds
Another
off
one
of the
based on
second question, or what we just talked about, saying defending Lautenberg, which means that act that gives a lessened burden to people of those groups from those countries. Susanna argued it being niche. How is it need to create this special niche without existing setup are efficient to handle a valid offense. India
I
does
don't know
group
what this means.
determination because I have no idea what this person
All
is
right.
saying.
All right. So we have no idea. So we could move on. Anyways, before we move on to now, we could move on to the live chat questions. Imran is telling everybody that he just blessed the algorithm with his likes, I think. So, guys, make sure you do bless the algorithm with your likes. Thank you to the YouTube gods. The YouTube gods are the only gods that we actually worship here, but not out of love.
Wait.
But we worship
You know what
them out
time
of
it is
fear.
when we're worshiping the YouTube gods?
Oh, yeah, we are. Yes. Guys, make sure you like. Okay, we don't have to explain what we're doing. Okay, if you know, you know. Guys, please like the video so that the YouTube gods actually maybe don't. If they don't bless us, at least they don't curse us, right? So there's that. All right. Anyway,
so we had a bunch of live chat questions, and Rudresh loaded up a bunch of questions in the beginning. But instead of doing 5 Rudresh questions in a row, I think we should break them up. How about we do one on one?
Someone else, someone else. Okay,
so the first question that Rudresh asked was, Kyle Kluinski has another video saying that Trump is responsible for hardline government in Iran. Then agrees with Raisi on putting Trump and Pompeo on trial and quotes Chomsky. Thoughts? Okay. So actually, this might be something we should save for the weekend because we're going to talk about how Raisi basically vowed revenge if Trump isn't put on trial for killing Qasem Soleimani and saying that Muslims
can I get this video? Can I get this? I want to dedicate an entire stream to this video.
Rudresh, you should actually, I want you to email it directly to me. That'd be easier. So please email me at Susanna at atheistrepublic.com a link to this video.
Yes. Okay, I made a video today. Okay, Ridrish, I'm gonna look this up. I might actually do a dedicated stream to this. Can you give us the title of the video right now in the live chat? So actually, we could just look it up. It was today.
The first 3 times I read this question, my mind said Kyle Rittenhouse. I'm like, why is Kyle Rittenhouse talking about this?
You know what? Can I tell you something? Same. I was like, what?
I was like, huh. Didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Okay, so switching to someone else.
But
Gaysian
we're gonna
American
do a stream. Rudresh, we're gonna make an entire stream on that.
Gaysian American is saying, what are our thoughts on the Baha'i religion? Honestly, I need to learn a lot more about it because I really don't know much.
It's sexist. It's ridiculous. It's anti-Semitic. It's anti-LGBT. And it's basically an offshoot of Shia, 12-er Shia Islam. It just continues past that, But I mean, it's based in Israel. Their main temple is in Israel, which is the reason why.
Beautiful temple.
Oh my God, it's gorgeous. It's not even. I don't think it even operates as a temple. I think it's just a tourist attraction. I don't know. It's just I mean, I have no idea what they do in there. I don't think anybody does. They're very secretive. Well, I know that women can't be in charge, so there's that. Just like every other religion. But I think the main purpose of the temple they have in Israel is we can't be that bad if our temple is this beautiful. Are you not impressed with how beautiful our temple is? That's basically the whole idea behind it.
I feel like it would be the perfect place to get wedding photos, even if you're not even remotely by.
Yeah, it's glorious. Their temple is freaking.
I think it's in Hebron.
You have to go see it. But here's the thing: the temple has been actually. Actually, let me see if I have the pictures. The temple has also been all the people who want to accuse them of being
Zionist. Oh, that probably works against them really heavily in Iran.
Oh my God, it does. Yeah.
Oh no. But yeah, in terms of their actual beliefs, I don't know much. I thought that they had more beliefs that matched with. I've heard it pitched to me as like, oh, it's kind of like a religions of religions. It's like they just kind of have everything.
Yeah, no, like
Oh
they
my
have this idea of
god!
everybody has their way. Everybody has their way towards God. We all recognize everybody. We're like
Yeah,
this, like
almost like kind of universal Unitarianism.
yes, yes. But then once you like, it looks pretty if you don't look under the hood, and then once you like look underneath, you're like, okay, like let's just
That
quit
is
this.
incredible. That is freaking incredible.
No, this one.
That one's in Illinois.
Yeah, they all look like kind of the same. They all have this like futurist. I don't know. Look at them. They're all amazing.
That's
Where is it? Israel.
insane.
I think this one is the Israeli one.
No, it
No,
says
this one is the
Chicago.
Chicago. Where's the Israeli one?
I think it's in
This one is
Hebron.
beautiful.
I,
Yeah,
that,
it's in
that looks like an
Hebron, but like
architecture sketch.
these are more
Wow.
futuristic.
I'm obsessed.
Yeah, but the Hebron one is the main one. Why is the Hebron one not anywhere?
We'll Google it. No, wait, I think it's in Haifa.
Oh wait, yes, you're right. Haifa. Yeah, you're right. It's Haifa. There we go. Actually, now that I'm looking at the other temples, because the Haifa one was like
In
the
comparison, it's not as cool.
yeah, maybe this one was one of the earliest one, and that's why the main one. Maybe they got so much positive feedback about how glorious this is that we're like, okay, if everybody likes our temple, let's just go and blow their mind. Like this is our main marketing tactic apparently. So just like yeah, these are even prettier. I didn't know. I saw the one in Haifa. I was there in Haifa. I don't even know why I forgot what the city's name. I was there and I saw it and I was shocked. But now that I'm looking at these other ones, what the hell is
Yeah,
this? This is a
that's
temple?
freaking
Okay, you know
cool.
what? I take everything back. I said I want to actually become a Baha'i. Do I get to be like a priest? If I get to be a priest in a temple like this, guys, I'm going to quit atheism. Sorry. Like look at this. We don't have buildings like this. Like guys, actually here's the thing. Either donate more right now, link in the description, so that Atheist Republic can have building like this. If by 2 years from now we can't afford to make buildings like this, I'm quitting Atheist Republic and I'm joining Baha'ism. Like what do I have to do to have cool buildings like this? Like seriously, like you know what? Forget actually being ideologically consistent. If you get temples like this, it's worth it.
Forget
Guys,
intellectual
if
consistency.
you want me to say donate enough so we could afford Atheist Republic buildings like this, okay?
Oh my
Or
god.
else I'm gonna change my mind. I'm seriously. Link in the description. Okay.
This is a comment that I just thought was nice. Mullah Munafik is saying, Armin, loved your criticism of Haris Sultan. I really love Haris, and I was also there when Haris made those comments about MBS. While listening to you, I was really ashamed how we could forget Yemen.
No. Well, I mean, it's good that you guys. Well, thank you for that. I mean, to be fair to Harris, I've never seen anybody take criticism so well. Like, so for people who don't know, like Harris, Sultan, and Nuria or Nuria, right? Nuria Khan, I think I'm saying her last name right. They made a video about Mohammed bin Salman and whether or not his reforms are good or bad, and they kind of more Harris like praised Mohammed bin Salman, and I just lost my mind when they praised him a bit. And I made a video reminding people about Yemen and the situation there because it seems like people keep forgetting that this is the greatest humanitarian crisis that we're dealing with in the world, right? And it's just like it seems like nobody cares about the Yemeni people because they're not significant and they don't have any influence on people's lives. Like they don't have oil, they don't meet anybody's like ideological battle. Like they're not ex-Muslims, they're not I mean they're Muslims. Other Muslims don't really care about them because they're not geopolitically significant. This is a very poor nation, and they're like being 6 years of complete brutality and hunger and disease. You know, inflicted upon them for, you know, because they're just at the in between two bigger powers like Iran and Saudi Arabia fighting, and they're unfortunate enough to be in the middle of all that, right? And the amount of misery that has come from that is so extraordinarily high. And you know, this mean like even when we talk about the misery in China, it seems like the reason why that gets more attention is because it makes political sense to be using, you know, I mean, that's a horrible situation for Muslims in China, but that gets a lot more attention because it's popular to be anti-CCP right now. Okay, like it makes there's a lot of political capital in that you could use, like if you spend on that. But the Yemenis people, there is in no one's interest to defend them. That's why it's a forgotten war, even though the situation is horrible. Um, Again, I'm not saying don't be anti-CCP. We're against that. We're anti-CCP. We talk about the situation in with the Uyghur Muslims as well, but this one needs a lot more attention. So I kind of use it as an excuse. I mean, I should thank Harris for providing me with it, because if I just come and talk about the situation in Yemen, nobody nobody cares. Nobody seems to care. But at least if I go like Harris provides me an opportunity to be like, no, you're wrong, and people like are more attracted to drama, and that gives me an opening to remind people about the situation in Yemen as well. But again, to be fair to Harris, he's so good at accepting criticism. Like that was and Nuria Khan as well. Um, Nuria, I should just say. But yeah, like I mean, I'm pretty sure there's so many things that I'm missing and everybody's missing, right? As long as we're open to each other to be like if I miss something so that is important, and somebody points it out to me, as long as I'm hoping that I could be as good as Harris at being open to like criticism, because he was so receptive of that. Like I went like really crazy. Like I went like
Oh yeah.
very angry. I went like I was like so I was like yelling, right? And he
For
came in.
an hour and a half.
Yeah, I was like very aggressive, and Harris didn't take it personally, right? Harris was like so receptive of it, and he was even thankful for it. So kudos to Harris, and I hope and thank you to him. And then he talked about it on his channel. So if anything, it was even better because now he was like dedicated an entire video talking about the situation in Yemen, right? So if anything, this was an opportunity for his audience, which is even bigger than our audience, to be reminded of this. And again, this reminder is important, right? People think political pressure doesn't have an influence. Political pressure has a huge influence. This is why Saudi Arabia spends so much money on their PR, because they care about it. Because if you guys know about it, and if you share the story, and if more people know about this, it is going to make it more difficult for tyrants like this to get away with. You might be a very small part of the solution, but it's better to be a very small part of the solution than not be a solution at all, right? So a lot of people think like their contribution is very insignificant, so they shouldn't do anything. I feel like that's completely wrong. It's better to sleep at night thinking that you were on the right side. It does have an effect. It does have a
If
small effect. Yeah,
if you
go ahead.
guys want to see the full video that Armin is talking about, just look up ex-Muslims defend a war criminal, secular jihadists. I highly recommend watching it.
Anyways, thank you, Mullah. Thank you for
Um,
Mullah Munafaq. I just realized what the name Mullah Munafaq. Okay.
um,
Okay.
Rudresh is asking, do you consider Kazakhstan as a more progressive Muslim country more than Tunisia? Okay, this question doesn't fully make sense to me because do you mean Kazakhstan as a state or the opinions of its people? Because as a state, like it's an autocracy. Like
Yeah.
it's not progressive at all. They have like cotton slavery. Like it's not good over there. It's not in any shape
Yeah, they
progressive.
have
And
literal slavery. You're right.
in terms of the opinions and beliefs and practices of the population, um, I don't know a lot about this, partially because there's not a lot of information that comes out of Kazakhstan because it's an autocracy. But I do
Or
know that there
we
is a
just don't know.
significant there's a significant portion of the population that is atheist, but that's a holdover from the Soviet Union. So I don't know if we have
So
enough information to know.
Rudish is clarifying. Rudish is clarifying. He's saying he means the Kazakh people. So I don't know. I'm actually ignorant about that. So he's not talking about the government. He's talking about the people. People's religious opinions. I don't know. I actually would assume that it is. I mean, I would assume like Kazakhstan's people are less religious than like maybe. I mean, they're obviously less religious than I don't know Pakistan, right? There. But compared to Tunisia, that's like a very hard question. Like I would not know. I would not know if the people of Kazakhstan are more progressive ideologically. They're people compared to in Tunisia. That's something that I would not have an answer for. All right, sorry about that. But
Okay,
that's a hard question. Rudish is asking hard. Rudish, that's a very hard question. Like this is like you're comparing a country that we don't know much about their people compared to one of the most progressive Arab countries in the world, and you're like, which one is more progressive? Like, oof, that is not that is not an easy question to answer. Okay. Right,
the bread of life, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, is asking us, what are your goals for Atheist Republic in 2022? Well, I have some goals for Atheist Republic in 2022. 2022 is Atheist Republic's 10-year anniversary. So I would. Why are you acting surprised? You're the one who started this.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so 2022 is our 10-year anniversary, and I would really like to put out content like short videos and clips and things across our social medias or maybe on our YouTube page that highlight the things that we've accomplished in the past 10 years, from like giving out things to the homeless in Vancouver, to all this stuff are opening up the consulates all over the place, growing to be the largest atheist community in the world, maybe international protests for Sohail Arabi. So things that profile and celebrate everything that's been accomplished in the past 10 years. I also have other things that I want to do, like just grow our organization in general, grow our financial support. There's several ways I'm planning on doing this. Get our monetization on YouTube back this year, because it's been almost a year without monetization, and that has definitely affected us and our viability. And then I want to do little things like get us verified on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. And I have personal goals for myself where I want to learn more managerial skills. So maybe take a few little courses on that and improve my ability and efficiency as the CEO. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And have fun. Yep. Have fun with you guys, grow the community.
Mm-hmm.
And just continue to provide, a space for people to be themselves.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the expansion of our Arabic section with Dolly. I'm also looking forward to making more Hinduism and India related content. And we do make a lot of Islam and Christianity content. I think like we have been ignoring Hinduism for a long time, so I'm really glad that we are moving in that direction. All right, so I do want to move on, but I do want to highlight something that we were wrong, I think. Thank you for highlighting that, because we were talking about the cotton slavery. Cotton slavery is Kazakhstan, not It's not Kazakhstan, it's Turkmenistan.
There's think Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. They've only recently have some changes to it. And I'm
I think it's Uzbekistan that's actually
70% sure that Kazakhstan had a similar problem. But
I think I'm looking at it. It's neither It's neither Turkmenistan or Kazakhstan. I think it's Uzbekistan that has the cotton slavery.
It wasn't
I think,
exclusively as Uzbekistan. I remember looking
but I
this
think,
up before.
yeah, but what I'm saying is that Kazakhstan has child slavery, not cotton slavery.
Oh,
So
excuse me.
I think we got the slavery wrong.
Well, in
Yes.
Uzbekistan, the cotton slavery is also child slavery. It's a problem throughout Central
Yeah,
Asia,
but I think the
especially
worst one
the
is I
landlocked
think
nations.
Uzbekistan is known more for that. I think DS is also. I'm not sure. Yeah, we have to look into that.
No, that's what I was saying. Uzbekistan, it's the worst, but this isn't
Yeah.
exclusive to Uzbekistan. I've looked into this before.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's not exclusive. I'm just not seeing anything about cotton slavery in Kazakhstan. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing a lot of child slavery.
I know
stuff.
that those three countries depend very heavily on the cotton industry, and they they have a history of subsidizing it through slavery.
All right,
So,
let's move on.
anyways, another question from Mudresh. Do you think what China is doing to the Uyghurs is similar to what Soviets did to Central Asian countries?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
You-
enough about
You're talking about the
Soviet history,
gulags?
honestly.
Oh wait, you're talking about well, actually, no, it's not the same. Okay, so it's not the same because they're not. I mean, it's not. They're not. There's not as much killing, right? So, but the problem is that if we start comparing it, China is going to look good relative to that, and I don't want to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people. This is the worst that we like. This is the worst concentration camp that we have right now on the planet. But just because they're like, if we start comparing them to the Soviet Union, it's going to be like, well, at least they're not killing them in masses, and it might come off as us like
Minimizing it.
minimizing it. Yeah.
I maybe I can see comparison in terms of like an imperial impulse, border expansionism to maintain certain contain geopolitical vulnerabilities. That's why
Right.
Russia continues to have such an interest in these regions to this day. Is to
Yeah.
try
Okay.
to
But guys, yeah. But just like the stand, like, yeah. Again, Ridrish is saying like these are so far away from each other, right? But like the crimes that were committed during those times, it was one of the darkest decades in human history, right? But it's unfortunate that a lot of people want to compare. Like, I mean, it's not unfortunate, but I'm just saying, like, be careful, because once you compare things to the darkest chapters of our history, then things that we should consider really grave human rights violations, once you put it next to that, they're going to look. It's unfair to compare it to that, because that was so dark and so evil. The things that we should be very concerned about today all of a sudden look like not as concerning. Do you know what I mean? So just be mindful of that, because then, like, I mean, we have made a lot of progress and we have to celebrate that, but it could make a lot of people. We have to remind people that this is one of the worst that we have right now, right? So we have to compare it. We have to compare what's happening in China with the rest of the civilized world. You know what I mean? Like, rather than to the worst of humanity, right? So I guess that's
next question is from Puya. Now that you've covered most major religions, I would be very much interested in seeing videos on the Nation of Islam and Rastafarianism. Do you plan on making videos on these in the future? Well, I would be very interested in doing a video on the Nation of Islam, because I don't even think of this as a religion. The Nation of Islam is a cult. It is a destructive cult. And I'm obsessed with cults. I find them fascinating. So that's more of my jam. Rastafarianism might be kind of interesting to people. That would kind of be best if we could find a video to unpack that with.
Yeah. Can I address Ronald's comment here? But yeah, we are interested in that. That's a good point. Yeah. But Ronald is saying a comparison is not saying two things are equal. I didn't say that. It's actually, a comparison is not claiming that they're equal. In fact, it's claiming the opposite, because if they were equal, you wouldn't even be comparing it, right? You would be like, there's obviously, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying Like you're saying something that Ronald, you're saying something that I didn't say. What I was saying is like I specifically said go ahead and compare them. Just be mindful of how you frame it and what conclusions could people take from that. I never suggested that you shouldn't be comparing them, right? So yeah, okay.
Anyways, Rudresh is saying, oh, this is a spicy question. Rudresh is asking, Armin, for eradicating casteism, is eradicating Hinduism necessary and sufficient or just necessary? Asking based on your comment. Not sure what comment, but this is a
Oh, I
big
think
question.
my Facebook comment. I think I recently posted on Facebook and YouTube.
Oh,
I didn't.
yeah. Well, you
Yeah, I
know
said
that
there's.
casteism isn't exclusive to South Asia, right?
I didn't say that though.
Oh,
I
okay,
didn't
just
say it's
checking.
exclusive, but I
I
said there's
recently
nothing
learned
more.
that there was a caste
All
system
right.
in West Africa.
Yes, there's a caste system in Japanese culture, Korean culture. It's a very common. It's yeah, but it's very much more pronounced in Hinduism, and it's a fundamental part of Hinduism. You know, a lot of times people say like, "Oh, it's not just Hinduism." Well, when did I say it's just Hinduism? So what I actually said is, there's nothing more Hindu than the caste system. That's what I said, right? Um, so what the question British is asking for: eradicating casteism, is eradicating Hinduism necessary and sufficient? Well, here's the thing. Um, is it necessary and sufficient? Hinduism should be eradicated even if it didn't have casteism, right? Um, as a religion, not maybe as a mythology or historical literature, um, or fun traditions, then that's fine if you want to keep it the same way that we keep our knowledge of Mayan history and culture and celebrate that without actually believing in human sacrifice or without actually believing in the Mayan gods. If you want to treat religions like that, that's fine. It's just as mythology and fun traditions. There's nothing harm in that. But as a religion, as a belief system, Hinduism should be eradicated, even without the without the caste system, without the casteism, right? Because it's just false, right? Um, like I don't know, palm reading. I think palm reading as something that I believe should be eradicated just because it's false. So
But
let alone Hinduism with all the horrible teachings that it has. But go on, what are you saying?
but to eradicate casteism, do you think
Hmm.
it's necessary to eradicate Hinduism?
Um, no, I mean it's not okay. So it is necessary to eradicate Hinduism, but it is possible for casteism to end and Hinduism to remain, right? That is possible. Okay, um, that would be a Hindu, but it would be still within Hindu beliefs. It wouldn't be within Hindu practice, right? So, for example, um, then we might have a time when we still have Muslims and we still have Islam, and there is no radical violent Islamic violence. We might get to that point. Okay. Does that mean that the violence is not a fundamental part of Islam? No, it doesn't. Just because Muslims are not doing it, it doesn't mean that it's not part of Islam. It is within, like it's in the Quran, right? It is a fundamental part of the religion, right? Let's say we get to a point where there's no wife beating. There's no Muslim who's doing wife beating. Does that mean wife beating is not part of Islam? No, even if not a single Muslim beats his wife, because it's in the Quran, wife beating is part of Islam, right? So casteism, even if we get to a point when there is no caste in the caste-based society or the caste system in India, caste system was such as from the beginning, from the Vedic period, um, through too much later on in in the Puranas. Like you can see it in the Vedas, you see it in the Puranas. It will always be a fundamental part of Hinduism, even if it's not a single Hindu practices that, right? So you could get rid of, at some point, you might be able to get rid of casteism, um, while without getting rid of Hinduism, and that doesn't contradict me saying that caste system is a fundamental part of Hinduism, right? Also, if you want to get rid of, given what we just said, that there are caste societies outside of Hinduism, like we just mentioned, Susanna just gave you some examples. That means that if theoretically you get rid of Hinduism, that doesn't mean that casteism is over. It could be still practiced under different traditions as well. So no to both.
Yeah, I've this is a question that I've been contending with, and to help answer this question, I've been getting into the work of different Dalit scholars. So particularly, I've been watching. There's a number of conversations that um, the Dalit scholar Dr. Suraj Yangde, I think that's how you say his name, has had with Cornell West, and I'm making my way through those, in which he asks this question and posits it to Cornell West. Who's a very famous, I don't know if he's technically a theologian, but activist, and he's at the Harvard School of Divinity, about if you remove casteism from Hinduism, what is left? Which I think that is an extremely interesting question to contend with, and that's something that I'm digging into and tackling more myself. So I think that's almost a more interesting question, and that's something that hopefully I can be able to bring you guys an answer about soon.
I'm gonna do an entire stream on showing how fundamental, like, yeah, because a lot of people try to make it seem like casteism was like not based on birth. It was added, changed later. It wasn't in the Vedic. It wasn't in the Vedas or anything like that. I'm going to do an entire stream dedicating and going through the scripture, and maybe eventually we do a stream with Susanna once she does research on that. But like, I want to, on a scriptural basis, I want to go and show everybody how fundamental, how big of a deal casteism is in Hinduism throughout its history, not just later, like from the very beginning. And how from the beginning it was by birth. Like, a lot of Hindus try to defend it by saying like it wasn't by birth, it was just like people's it was just like a job title, right? Before, it wasn't like it wasn't something that was assigned to you by birth. But I'm going to show you that no, from the very, ever since Hinduism was a religion, at any point, I don't know when you want to decide when Hinduism started, but even at any point that you could consider, at any point that you had Hinduism, you had caste. At any point that you had anything that you could call Hinduism, you had caste. And I know a lot of people have an issue with calling it Hinduism. I'm going to address that as well. Okay, I'm going to address definitions of what people consider Hinduism, what they don't consider Hinduism, why do we use the word Hinduism, even though a lot of people don't like that word. And yeah, and then I'm going to show you if there's nothing, like everything else about Hinduism has been flexible. Like, sometimes based on some definitions of Hinduism, you could consider it part of Hinduism, or you could not consider it part of Hinduism. The only thing that has always been part of Hinduism, based on every single definition of Hinduism that you could come up with, is the caste system. But go on.
Well, and I get really frustrated when people talk about the origin of the word caste and how it's Portuguese, it's not even Indian, blah, blah. That's what we call it over here. You know what we're talking about. We're talking about Varna and Jati, okay?
Yeah, we know. Yeah,
we
know
all
what you're talking about.
Get over yourself. We're talking about Varna and Jati. We just call it caste. God damn.
It's like they're like, oh, it's not even a Sanskrit word. Or like, you're like, it's as if somebody's saying like, Armin, you're being unfair. And I'm like, well, I'm Persian, and unfair is an English word, so I can't be unfair. Like, that's the level. That's the level of discourse that we have here. How could I be unfair? Don't use your English words on me. Like, what?
How do you say unfair in Farsi?
Be adalat, be Munsafane. I don't know. Yeah.
See?
There's many
so
words.
You can be that, but you can't be unfair.
Like, look at this.
Okay.
People are saying the word, like, we have it. Warner system is not the caste system. When we're talking about the caste system, we're talking about this Warner system. People know what we're talking about. They're just trying to play with words. They're just trying to
Also,
dance around
Sneha
because.
was too dumb to realize when we were talking about palm reading, you actually weren't attributing that to Hinduism. You were making an analogy. So,
Oh my God, Sneha, you're not very smart. You actually thought when I said palm reading, I was saying that. Sneha, you're not very smart. You're not very smart. Sorry.
okay.
Anyways,
So,
let's move on.
next question is from Nihilist Antinatalist. Armin, you said you would get drunk and go live when you reached 30K. I was wondering when someone was gonna
Why did you highlight?
knock
Why are you
knocking on your door.
highlighting that? Why are you highlighting that? Guys, I'm trying to be healthy. Can I switch to something else? Can I
They want
switch
to
to
see you
something else?
intoxicated.
Can I
You
switch
don't
to
have to
something
do
else?
it.
Yeah. I'm trying to be healthy, guys. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, but if you like, guys, give me something else, something more healthy, okay? Not alcohol. Okay.
So we have a big question from Razam next. Razam, part 1. What do you think of intellectual supremacy? A lot of smart people struggle with corruption, corporate abuse, stupid politics, religion, climate change, wealth distribution, etc., while these stupid people deny those problems or just seek and accept wrong, simplified answers. Why should the intellectual worry about the idiots who are willingly blind? Why not abuse the willingly blind, quote unquote, proletariat? Why not be a part of the 10%? That way you won't be affected by climate change, dumb policies, etc. Why try to save the world?
Wait, I don't understand the
So
question. What is the question?
this is making the assumption that the elite are already intellectually better, which I actually
Yeah.
don't think is the case.
Well, can you actually tell me what the question means? Like, what is? I didn't get the first. Like, I don't really
So
understand.
it's trying to get at elitism, but making the
Oh my
assumption
God.
that elitism is already correlated with
Okay.
um higher IQ,
Let me
intellectual
just read. Let me
superiority.
just read the question because you're not telling me what the question really is saying. Hold
I
on. Let me
read
just.
it a second ago. Why aren't you
Okay, but
listening?
what? Yeah, because okay, it's a multi-part question. What do you think of intellectual supremacy? A lot of smart people struggle with corruption, corporate abuse, stupid politics. I mean, are you asking us why don't we not care about people who are not intellectual? Like obviously people deserve to be happy whether they're intellectual or not, right? That's the answer. Because stupidity is not a crime, as much as frustrating as stupid people are, and even if they're not stupid, if they're just not intellectual, they deserve happiness. Like, why would we be intellectual supremacists? Why do we think like just because somebody is more capable of understanding things in the world, that doesn't make them more deserving of happiness? Like, even a, like, I don't know, my dogs are not very smart. They deserve to be happy. If we can think like even the dumbest, even the least intelligent creatures, you measure who's deserving of happiness and who deserves protection from misery based on their capacity of them for them to be able to experience happiness and misery, not based on their capacity to come up with the right conclusions. Anything that is capable of being miserable needs to be protected from being miserable. Anything that is capable of being happy is deserving of achieving that happiness, regardless of how smart or dumb they are.
Well, but this the question goes further. It's saying why what is to prevent the motivation to abuse the proletariat,
Sym-
the rest of them.
sympathy,
I know,
sympathy.
but it's also making the assumption that intelligence is not evenly distributed across populations, which I don't understand.
Um, I mean, it would. I mean, we don't want to make a world where like the fruits of like intelligence and science and everything is only enjoyed by the people who are responsible. I mean, guys, if most of us would not make that cut anyways, like what do you do understand that most of the contributions to the, most of the things that pushed the world forward in a very significant way came from like the 1% of like scientists and intellectuals. Like if you're somewhat intelligent relative to people who are completely like are idiots, right? We are also idiots compared to some people above us. Like I
So,
think we should be more sympathetic towards people who are intellectually below us, especially given that we don't want to be judged as being less deserving of happiness by the people above us. But yeah, go on.
well, then Rosam clarified, like, why care about people's problems? Why try to solve for human civilization, and why not just be a Machiavelliist, ruthless person? I feel like you already answered
because
that.
because we don't want to. We have most, we have this desire to be kind. Like there's no, it's almost as if asking like, so why is your favorite color green? That's kind of like the same thing. We as a social animal have a desire to see other people happy and to avoid misery, right? um I mean, we even have that desire for things that are not human, right? We have that desire for even like much less intelligent beings than humans. We have, and it's a good thing, right? That we have that. We have this urge to make life better for the highest number of people. You get the, like you could go try that, right? Go and be helpful to somebody who is desperately in need without ever telling anybody, without anybody knowing except yourself, and then see if you're getting any joy out of that, because I bet you will. I bet you will, right? um Also, this is the fact that we have this desire for us to see other people happy is actually a bigger factor in our success in than intelligence. Like if you could make the world 10 times more intelligent, you're not going to see the same results as making the world 10 times more kind, right? Like imagine if you lived in a world where it was twice as intelligent but half as kind, or in a world that it was twice as kind but half as intelligent. I would bet you the world that is twice as intelligent and half as kind would turn into a hell. In the world that was twice as kind and half as intelligent would probably see a lot of improvements, right? So again, intelligence is important, but kindness is even more important. Go on, Susie.
So next question is wait, let me pull it up. I like this question from blank name. Fellow country person, how is your relationship with your nationality in history of your native country? Well, I think needless
What
to
is it?
say, for Armin, it is quite contentious. Um, uh, for me, I think that for my country, I think a certain degree of highly critical civic nationalism is a good thing. Um, there's a lot of people that outright oppose any form of nationalism, but I think that there is a certain degree of nationalism that is important in maintaining and defending that country. And I think it is worthwhile when that country has values that are worth defending and protecting. And my country, I'm an American, falls short constantly, but we have aspirations that I still subscribe by and I think are worth working towards and trying to perfect becoming a more perfect union day and day, like day after day. Um, so I um, have um, a uh, I try to accept the things that my country has done wrong. I try to study them and understand how they came to be and how they can be prevented, or what the warning signs are, or how we're continuing to do these things into the present. Um, and what are the mechanisms that allow this to happen so that we can hopefully remedy the situation. But I think having like I said, like a highly critical um, uh, patriotism is actually a good thing. Someone who is never going to accept just what is given, but constantly demand to be better for the sake of becoming a better nation, and defending the values in which we were founded, which I think, although, like I said, we haven't lived up to them, are very worthwhile. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what people mean by nationalism. I think I have, people say, oh, patriotism and nationalism is a different thing. And people just have their own definitions of what they're talking about. Like, so I just categorize all of these into three separate thing. I think based on what one of these definitions is dangerous. One of these definitions, based on the definitions that you're using, nationalism could be dangerous, could be harmless, and also useful. Okay, so the useful one, the one that is helpful, which is people sometimes refer to as civic nationalism, is the one that is recognizing that the concept of a nation and the concept of borders are very, very useful, right? Um, and the idea of a nation state is the best model we have into assigning um, people that are supposed to be responsible for managing a certain geographical area. Like the invention of the concept of nation state has been a major benefit to society. Like we haven't come up with a better model, right? So it's a very good tool. It's a social construct, and it's a very good one. So the idea of like, yeah, borders and nations and stuff, like they make sense that you need them. If that's what you mean by nationalism, then yeah, then consider me a nationalist, I guess. If by so that one was the beneficial one. The second one is the one that is harmless. If you like it, you could enjoy it. If you don't, there's no harm in it. The second one would be the nostalgic one, the feeling of association. Like if you are nationalist in the sense that you grew up in this place, you have an emotional feeling towards it, the dances, the poetry, the food, the people, you have this emotional attachment to it. Um, and you enjoy it, you enjoy being around it. If you live outside of a country, once you see those colors, those smells, you get this flashback, and you just want to be around it. If that those feelings, you enjoy your country's history and the culture, that is a form of, that's a form that is completely harmless. But if you don't have it, you shouldn't be shamed for not having it. If you have it, you can enjoy it. But other people who have it should not shame the people who don't have it. If you don't like it, there's nothing wrong with it, and if you like it, you can enjoy it. So that's the harmless one. And the third one is the harmful form of nationalism, which is what I would describe as people who think that they're somehow superior, because to other people, because they belong to a certain country, that they're
Yeah, and I oppose that.
that they're deserving of more rights, that they will take the side of the people that are just happen to have been born in that geographic area, just because you were over other people, just because just because you are also been born in that geographic area. Like if you see the interests and the desires and of those people as more important, more of a priority to you than the other people in the world, just because some people were born in that area, if that's what you see as nationalism as, then that's a very destructive and harmful form of ideology, and it needs to be eradicated. So that form of nationalism is what I oppose.
Yeah. I think, like I said, like a highly critical, um, uh, self reflective civic nationalism is a good thing, because given that your country holds values that are worth aspiring to, we need people to defend that, to be willing to defend that. And then I think this should maybe be our final question tonight. Rudresh is asking, will crypto save countries with failing currencies like Venezuela, Lebanon, and now? I don't know if you guys have been watching what's going on in Turkey, but it is freaking scary. I would also like to add Argentina to that list.
And yeah, of Iran, if they had free internet, it could be free. I don't know what you mean by save countries, because first of all, we have no idea how blockchain is going to change the world. We just know that it's going to significantly change the world. we don't know how, we don't know when, we don't know what currencies or which technology. The only thing we know that is like it's going to change things. It's going to change things significantly. Okay, so that's the only thing that we could almost be sure of, right? Because when you say save, like if you want to think about hypotheticals, when you say save countries, it could depends on your definition of save. Like if if it's challenging the authority of the government, but is giving the individuals more power relative to the government. Like the government might not see that as saving, but the people might see that as saving.
No, let's say saving. Let's simplify this. Let's say saving in terms of preventing hyperinflation, protecting against hyperinflation.
So see, again, it would protect the people against if it is successful at that. It will protect the people against hyperinflation, but it wouldn't protect your currency against hyperinflation. In fact, it would escalate the inflation because people are going to switch from their currency to these alternative currencies. So see, like it could be devastating to the country's currency, but it could be helpful to the people because they don't hold the currency. They don't hold your country's currencies. They're holding cryptocurrency. So again,
see, it's clarifying, really save people and businesses.
Okay, yeah, it could potentially be very helpful to the people and businesses, but it could also be depending on the country, it could be a challenge to the country's currency, right? In some countries, there's again, and it also depends on the cryptocurrency you're talking about, right? So, for example, stable coins could be very, very helpful potentially in making the U.S. dollar keep its dominance, right? Like Bitcoin could challenge United States. Yeah. So for example, if people are predicting, again, I don't know if any of these predictions are true, depending on the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin could be a challenge to United States dominance, but stable coins could actually increase United States US dollars dominance as the world currency, right? And in fact, one challenge to all these other countries' currencies, like fiat money, it could be US stable coins, because a lot of people who might not even want to hold Bitcoin or Ethereum, they want to have access to dollar, and they don't have access to dollar. And through cryptocurrencies and through stable coins, all of these people are now going to be able to have access to United States dollar. And that might even challenge these countries' native currencies even more than Bitcoin, because US dollar is very a popular currency to hold, and now everybody, even the unbanked people are not gonna have access to US dollar. Okay, so yeah, it might say, like, again, and also it depends on the cryptocurrency you're talking about, and it also depends on the country, right? So, for example, in Iran, cryptocurrency might open the door to a lot of people to be able to save themselves from inflation, right? Because of the falling, because if they hold cryptocurrency, look at people they can't buy oil, they can't buy real estate, but they might be able to buy some cryptocurrency. It might open the door for that to them, but it also might help the government, right? So the government has access to a lot of fuel that it cannot sell because of sanctions, but it could burn it and use the energy to mine Bitcoin, and then just sell the Bitcoin and basically bypass all the bypass all the sanctions, right? And that way, like we're looking at Bitcoin as something that might bring the power to the people, but in a country like Iran, it might actually shift the power back to the government, right? And also in the meanwhile, burn all this oil in Iran instead of exporting it, and just maintain all the pollution right over there, right? But again, they're cutting the internet there, so they don't have enough strong internet to make that financially feasible. I don't know. Again, it's really hard. This is very, very, yeah. Each cryptocurrency is going to become like right now. Everybody's looking at the world of cryptocurrencies as one thing, but the future is going to be these will decouple from each other, right? Like, and become each one of them that is successful could become its own world that is having a completely separate effect on the world than the other ones. Right now, they're all the same thing, like cryptocurrencies. But in the future, the effect of Ethereum and the effect of, I don't know, Polygon is going to be completely different, and depending on the location is also going to be very different. So it's much more complicated than that.
And then here's a comment, or two comments that I think Armin will be very excited about. I don't know if we should give this little taste. Music guy saying atheist coin. Blank Name saying we should have an AR Bitcoin.
Well, AR Bitcoin, we can use.
It would be an AR token.
It would be a token. Yes, it would.
A token built on Ethereum.
Bitcoin is already taken. Yeah. So no. Yeah. I mean, maybe one day we will make a token. Yeah. Maybe.
Okay. Armin and I do want to make a token.
Yeah, I do want to make a token.
But do we really have to engage with Sneha? I can't deal with her.
Sneha is saying crypto is the largest scam in this world. Not surprised that it originates in the West. Yeah, not surprised that it originates in the West from a set of countries that brought you, Sneha, the West, that brought you the internet that you're using right now, that brought you the computer that you're using right now. Like I'm sure the internet was also a scam who you're using right now to talk to us. Look how big of a hypocrite you are. That brought you the cure to this pandemic, by the way, that is going around, right? So there's that, the West that brought you all of that stuff, right? Yeah. Is this from Sneha? It's now from India?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, also brought you democracy. Also brought your entire government structure is based on a Western model, Sneha. Everything that makes your country great came from copying a Western model of governance. So maybe you should be a little bit more thankful. So yeah, you're using
also,
the internet.
Isn't
you're using
India
a computer.
going to have like
your medicine comes from the West. Your knowledge comes from the West. Your computer comes from the West. Your internet comes from the West. Your government comes from the West. Your entire identity comes from the West. Maybe you should be a little bit more thankful. And here's the thing: I actually agree with the first part, somewhat parts of the first part. Just like the internet, most of crypto is going to crash and burn. If that's what you mean by scam, the internet came, it went through a dot-com bubble. Most of what people bet on as being successful, 90% of it crashed and burned, just because most of them was like either a scam or something that didn't work. That didn't mean that the technology that brought you all those dot-com bubbles was useless. So we're going to go through a period. Blockchain technology is going to be extremely useful. Are we going to have a lot of scams? Yes. Is 90% of the things that we're seeing that there's a hype around is gonna fail? Yes, just like the dot-com bubble. Does that mean that the blockchain technology is going to be useless? No, it's still going to change the way we do everything. It's still going to be extremely useful, even though more than 90% of everything that people are betting on is going to fail. Just like the internet, just like people thought internet was a fad, just because we went through the dot-com bubble, and now the entire world, every single conversation that we're having, most of the conversation is happening on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and everything. We have Amazons, we have Airbnb, we have Uber. So the internet was not a fad. Blockchain is not a fad. Specific cryptocurrencies are a fad, but the underlying technology under it is not a fad. Also, this is not financial. This is not a financial advice. Oh yeah.
Not a financial advisor. Didn't India put all sorts of restrictions on crypto recently? Or they were going to? I thought India put a bunch of restrictions and regulations.
No.
On
India
crypto is-
actually did good. India was like didn't ban it. So what you want is regulations, right? So you
Well,
do like
wait.
you do. So India was good. So people thought India was going to ban cryptocurrency, but they didn't. They just came with saying that we need to regulate
Okay,
it.
that's
And
awesome.
actually and the regulate, so it didn't go to China. So here's another thing. India, thank you for the government of India for not going the China route and just banning everything. So India made the right decision. The regulations on cryptocurrency is actually going to help cryptocurrency, okay? Because if you don't have regulations on cryptocurrency, then institutional investors can't get involved. If you do have regulations on cryptocurrencies, then institutional investors are going to feel like more is going to legalize the process for them, that they would get involved, and it's going to increase the mass adoption of cryptocurrencies. Yeah.
Well, what I was gonna say was I hope that India, adopts this technology because it has the potential and already is lifting thousands of people out of poverty. So
Yeah. Technically, you can't really. We're going to get to a place where you can't ban cryptocurrency. Like right now, the main way you could enforce rules against it is going to be through the exchanges. At some point, all the exchanges are going to be decentralized, and you could put all the laws in the world against them, and they're going to just be in the background. Yeah. So I'm saying yes, India has been imposing stiff punishment for using crypto. No, guys, if you actually see what they did, is they didn't ban it outright, so that was a good thing. Anyways, no,
this is just what we need to end on.
yes, I don't. Yeah, I don't blame you. Okay, wait. That's so sweet. That's beautiful. That's very good way to end the video. That's very sweet. I mean, you get more of Susanna if you actually unmute. So I don't know, maybe like. So yeah. Anyways, all right, guys. Thank you for guys. Make sure you like the video just to bless this video. Get the YouTube gods to bless us. Okay, just I've been told again that you actually don't need to, like, we have been reports that some people have been complaining to us. They say they have broken their phones because we keep telling them to smash. Like, we thought people would know that this is a joke. Don't smash the like button. Just a light tap would do. So just tap it lightly and we will benefit us. Like, if you can't support us financially, do not support us financially if you are struggling. Okay. So if you're not struggling financially, consider becoming a patron. Link in the description. That helps us
If you
grow the
become a
show.
patron, then you get priority, special first class treatment during
Yes.
our Q&As today. So if you're frustrated that we didn't answer your question today, I'm sorry. We're doing this, we have limited time. And if you want to, make sure that you get answered, consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month.
Yes. And if you can't, just like the video. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes half a second and it helps us grow the channel. So
We wouldn't be able to do what we do without our patrons. So
yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much to our patrons. We really, we would have to quit everything if it wasn't because of you. So thank you. All right, guys. Bye.